I just got back from a week in the Marshal wilderness. I haven't even showered. I am totally disgusting. I wanted to go through my bag while it's fresh and talk about what I brought and what I used and was glad I had, what I didn't need or end up using at all. And so next time I'll leave behind, and what I wish I had, and kind of how I did my setup. Okay, so I just opened up my bag, and there's a smell coming out of it that you would not believe. Okay, so let's see what awesome things we've got in here. So they told me to bring garbage bags, and I did, and they were actually pretty useful. I used them as a welcome mat in my tents, to try to keep my tents from getting so disgusting, honestly. That was what I used them for. And then on the way home, I packed my Crocs in them because my Crocs were pretty dirty, as dirty as I thought. I hate Crocs. I think they're ugly as sin. I swore I'd never get one, but I bought these for this trip. They're the ones with the fuzzy lines, and they were amazing. And I highly recommend them. I think I might have to burn those though. But the mosquitoes were such that I didn't want to wear flip-flops, which was another thing I brought. So I thought the Crocs were a better option because I didn't want my feet to get eaten. So you'll see I have flip-flops in here. I never wore them. So heavy fleece coat. I didn't end up wearing this, but I ended up using it for a pillow, and I'm glad I had it. I think there was one morning that somebody couldn't find their coat, and I gave it to them. It did get real cold. It could have been something that I needed. So I'm glad I brought a heavy coat. This happens to be fleece, but something heavy. Flip-flops, like I said, I didn't use them. I wouldn't bring them again. It's just the mosquitoes are gross. T-shirt, this is what I slept in. I only brought a couple. I wish I'd have brought more. This one's pretty nasty because I've been sleeping in it like literally every single night. So I would recommend bringing more than just one. Quick dry pants. This is what I wet weighed in. So I have 2 pairs of quick dry pants. They said bring 3. I brought 2. It worked great. I got away with 2. I just washed them when I washed myself. But I certainly could have used an extra one. I would have been good use of it. Good raincoat. I didn't happen to need it. We did get some weather. We got some hail and some rain. I didn't happen to need it, but I'm really glad I had it, just in case. So I would definitely recommend bringing a really good solid raincoat. Wet wading shoes. I love these shoes. I wet waded them all the time. I didn't wear them. I actually went and wore my full wading boot, full felt, only because I wanted the ankle support. The gravel on the South Fork of the Flathead is like fruit size, so everything from like, sand, like to blueberries, to raspberries, to grapes, to oranges, to apples, to the biggest watermelon you can find. So all of that stuff is mixed in. So I was happy I had that ankle support and that I wasn't gonna have to worry about my ankles, and definitely felt totally the way to go. Those wet wading shoes would have worked, but I just went with boots, and I was actually really happy I did. And there are a few times where I had to kind of scramble up a bank to get to the camp. It was fine in felt. There was nothing where I was like, this sucks to be in felt. Felt was just fine. So either one works. Boots are great. Back to the bag. Cotton socks. I wore these on the ride in. They're probably also to be burned. It was nice to have them. This is actually ended up being really important. So these are fleece pants that are lined. And then I have a pair of tights in here, like, technical wicking, quick drying, heat saving tights. And I wore this whole get up, the tights under the fleece every single morning. I'd get out of my sleeping bag and I'd put those on, and wear them while I had my coffee and while I had breakfast. And it was great to have them. Rain pants, again, I never needed them. Glad I had them. Would definitely bring them again. A sun blocking SPF fishing shirt. I brought 3. I think that's about the right number. I wore one for 2 days, and then I wore a different one. I love those things. I don't care what brand they are, but they're awesome. Gotta have them. Pajamas, underwear. Don't look at me. Okay, pajamas. I slept in my pajamas every night. I did bring pair of sweats in case it got really cold. I think this is probably worth it. Also, just to wear around the fire. It was nice to have a pair of kind of cotton sweats to change into. So I would bring those again. So I brought this shirt because they said for the ride that I needed something a little bit heavier. This is like a wool kind of fishing pullover hoodie. It's a little bit heavier than the other ones, the lighter weight ones. But I kind of thought it was too much. I actually was wishing I was in one of these. So maybe I'd bring another lightweight fishing shirt and ditch this because it was really hot the first day going out on the trail. Okay, so these are awesome biking pants with the pink blue gel lining in them. I wore these on day one of the horseback ride, and I think I'm glad I did. By the end of that day, I was really uncomfortable, but probably just from being on a horse for like 5 hours. The guys who wore these said that they were a lot more comfortable, and the guys who didn't wear these, actually some of them was pretty gnarly saddle sores. So I think gel-lined biking shorts are probably a good call. You know, the other great thing that somebody had was this sheepskin saddle cover that goes over the saddle. It makes it a little bit softer, and if I had to do this trip again, I would buy one of those and bring it for sure. Okay, buffs. I wore buffs, especially on the ride out. You want some sort of neck gaiter or buff for the dust protection, absolutely. And then if you like to fish with them, Godspeed, go ahead and fish with them. So, let's see. There's another pair of tights. I only ended up using one. If you're the kind of person that likes to fish in shorts and tights, you might bring more and then skip the wet wading pants. You do you. That works. I ended up only wearing the pair of tights in the morning to keep me kind of warm around the fire. Socks. I brought wool socks thinking I was going to wet wade in them, and then I didn't end up doing it. So I brought way too many pairs of socks. What I ended up doing was wet wading in boots with neoprene, like the wetsuit socks, you know, the wading socks. And that kept my feet a lot warmer. The first night at the second campsite, I fished just in socks and my wading boots, and my feet got really, really cold after about an hour. And so I switched to the neoprene wading socks, and my feet never got cold again. So that would be my recommendation. I mean, if you want to fish in wool socks, fish in wool socks. But I found that the neoprene waders were definitely the way to go for me. I had 2 pair, and that was perfect because I could put one on while the other one dried and just rotate them every day. So 2 pairs of neoprene socks, so that was great. Okay, hats. I brought 2 hats. Somebody gave me another one. Whatever kind of hat you like is great. Rather real. But obviously you need some sort of hat. Some guys were wearing like big wide brimmed hats, and that's fine. I like to pull up my hood, so I tend to wear those, but what's your preference? I brought 2 pairs of shorts. I only wore one night, and that's because the mosquitoes were so bad. They weren't bad, but they were bad enough that I didn't want to wear shorts. That's kind of how bad I'll say they were. Just bad enough to make me not want to wear shorts. So here's the one pair of the neoprene wading socks. Here's the rest of them. Okay. A lighter weight fleece. This was money. I wore this all the time. This was like my morning get up. I just put an undergarment on, and then I just put the t-shirt that I slept in on, put this over it, put my tights and my fleece on, and then I'd go, and my Crocs, and then I'd go and have coffee and breakfast, and do my morning stuff until it was time to get ready to go fish, and by then it would be warmer. Waders. I didn't bring them. Glad I didn't wear them, but I'm glad I had them. I could certainly see that you might want them. There were guys here that wore them every single day. The cotton underwear, you've seen it, sorry, whatever. That's for the plane ride here, the plane ride home. What I actually wear for underwear is quick dry underwear. That's a thing, and that's actually an awesome thing. I had an incident one time with this crawfish crawling up in my wading pants when I was going commando, and I had to drop trout in the middle of the river in front of a guy that I had just met. And I was totally commando, and everything was just kind of hanging out. And so then I discovered the quick dry underwear, because cotton doesn't ever dry, and then your ass gets all itchy. So quick dry underwear, money. That I brought a bunch of pairs of those, and I wore those every day, and I'm so glad I did. So I definitely recommend whatever brand of quick dry underwear makes you happy. All right, I brought little baggies of toiletries, more sunscreen, different kinds of deodorant. Highly recommend these things. These are good things for you and everybody on your trip with you. Headlamp. This broke like day one. I put fresh batteries in it and then it just died, never worked. So I never used it. I didn't need it, but that's because we had a big moon and clear nights, and honestly the moon is like a spotlight out there. And it's kind of incredible. So maybe you want a headlamp, maybe not. It wasn't necessary. So I bought these sleep masks because it's so light here in Montana, late into the summer. I didn't ever need it. I couldn't work it out, so I just ended up going without it, and honestly I was so tired it didn't matter. I brought a bunch of mosquito repellent, never used it. The mosquitoes were bad, but if you covered up, and especially if you hung out on the campfire, smoke tended to keep them away. But if you're super sensitive to mosquito bites, maybe you want to do that. I knew I had an extra headlamp in here. Anyway, I never found it. That's how much I didn't need it. I wear sports bras when I fish, when I wet wade. If you're a woman, I assume you do too. Not really going to talk about toiletries. Everybody has their own, but you might want to bring some ibuprofen or Tylenol because especially the days you're on the horse, you get pretty tired and sore. So, and then I brought wipes from my best friend. I brought 3 different kinds of wipes. I brought some facial cleanser wipes I clean my face with every day. I bought some body wipes that I used kind of in between my river baths. And then I brought some butt wipes for the latrine. And they were super helpful. And then also on the ride out there, I put some wipes in my saddle bag so that I could wipe my hands down before we launch on the trail, and that was really helpful. So shorts, like I said, didn't really use them. I thought that we were going to need cream for my coffee, so I brought some, but they ended up actually having real cream, so I didn't need this, and I'm going to leave this here and give it to Lodge. The cream. Lotion. You can't ever have too much lotion, in my opinion, so lotion's a good thing. Let's see, I brought some booze. I didn't end up wanting any because I was tired and I didn't want to have to get out of my tent and pee any more than I had to at night because it was cold. But I tell you what, I'm going to hit that tonight for sure. Okay, getting down to it. Towels. They told us to bring 2 washcloths and 1 big towel. I didn't end up using them at all. Some people did, but I just took my baths in the middle of the afternoon and then just drip dry, and I was fine. So one other thing that I had in my backpack the whole time is biodegradable soap. So I would just leave this in my backpack, and then when it got hot enough in the afternoon, I would hop in the river and take my bath. And that was great because by then I was usually already wet to my waist anyway, and so it wasn't quite as cold. It wasn't so bad to just kind of get in and actually wash my hair and clean up and everything. So some sort of biodegradable soap. And I just, like I said, just keep that in your backpack. And it's a nice thing to do, just to get, clean. This is a product called Chub Rub. This was for the horseback ride to keep from chafing. I think it worked. I didn't chafe, so that was good. All right, moving on to other stuff. And then, of course, sleeping bag. Mine is rated 20 degrees. I like the Sidewinder because I sleep on my side, but whatever you want. So mine's rated 20 degrees. It was warm enough, but I think if you get cold, you're going to want something that's rated a little bit colder, maybe 5 or 10 or 15. And then if you come at a different time of year, you're definitely going to want something warmer. It was fine, but it was close. Hat. I don't particularly care for this hat, but I do think a hat that I liked would have been nice. I found that it bothers me the way it fits, so I just didn't wear it, and I kind of wish that I had a hat that I liked. So a nice warm hat that you don't mind wearing is a good thing. I brought this other hat kind of for the riding portion of the trip and to fish in. I didn't ever use it. I don't really know why. I just kind of didn't. I just went with the ball cap, so it's just easier. I brought some headphones, some wireless, like Bluetooth headphones, so that I could listen to my audiobooks at night, and I'm really glad I did. I like kind of winding down listening to an audiobook, and it was nice to kind of go into my tent and be able to do that without bugging everybody else. And I think that we're kind of down to it. Here's the butt wipes that I bought. Whatever brand you like. I brought some melatonin. I didn't really need it. I sometimes have trouble sleeping, but I was tired. And that's it. These are all kind of duplicates of what I talked about before. I brought a camp pillow, but I didn't use it. I ended up just going with my fleece. Okay, starting with my backpack. This is what I wore every day. This is, waterproof bag, whatever brand you like, I think would work. It really needs to be waterproof because you're in rafts and it gets really wet on the bottom. This is actually still wet from the raft trip out. So this is how I do it. So these are the things that I need. You definitely want to be self-sufficient on this trip. The guiding, at least with the outfit I was with, it wasn't so much guiding as it was just transporting you to a section of the river so that you could fish. I mean, I wasn't looking to them by and large for fishing knowledge or helping me. I mean, they would tie on fly if I asked them to, but I would tell them what fly to tie on in general. So it's not kind of guided like they're telling you where to put your fly, what fly to put on. They're doing it all for you. It's really, you're kind of on your own as far as figuring it out. And actually, while you're fishing, you're pretty much on your own. So you need to have everything on your person. You need to be self-sufficient. As far as what you need for fishing goes, you want to be self-sufficient. So you want everything that you need for a day on the water. So what I did is I have my handy dandy zipper pocket right there. And in here, every day, I kept these things. Right here. I kept 4X fluorocarbon tippet. I don't care if it's SA. This is what somebody, I forgot my fluorocarbon. Somebody handed me this. But 4X fluoro tippet is the way to go. I kept some dry shake, whatever brand you like. Again, that's what I kept in my bag. And then I kept sunscreen. And that's what I had in my pocket the entire time. Those were things I could not live without. So definitely I needed access to those all the time. Those were crucial. Then on my what I had brought, I brought a dry bag with all of my fishing stuff. So this has got my leaders, tippet, I'll show you here. So what's in my dry bag? More floatant, nylon leader. I didn't use this at all, so I don't need that at all. I only ever used just the leaders, the regular leaders. Actually, I only used 4X 7.5, and I only replaced my leaders once, so I didn't need all these leaders. I didn't need that, so I would just bring fluoro next time, but I would bring some extra leaders. 4X is fine for a July trip, and then some extra kind of stuff for fishing, and then on my pack, and my nippers, hemostats, floating, and that was good. I was solid. So polarized sunglasses, gotta have them. What did I bring? Okay, for rods and reels, these are what things that I pulled off of my stuff today at the takeout. There's one more in here, I think. So what did I bring? I brought, this is a 6-weight with a full sink floating tip that I used for streamers. 6-weight probably was a little light. It worked for me, but if I had to do it again, I'd probably bring an 8-weight for bull trout, 7 or 8. And then this is either the 5 or the 4-weight. I brought 3 other rods. I brought a 6-weight for dries, and then a 4 to 5. And the 4 and the 5 were kind of my go-to for dry droppers and dries. If I had to do it again, I'd bring 2 5-weights, one rigged with a dry dropper and one rigged with a small dry fly. I had a 6-weight rod for dries that I didn't use. It would have been too much. So if I had to do it again, I'd bring 2 5-weights, one kind of capable of sending good big chubbies with a dry dropper, and then maybe a lighter 5-weight or a slower 5-weight for smaller dries, and then probably an 8 or a 7 for streamers for bull trout, instead of bringing what I did, which was a streamer 6, a dry fly 6, a 4 and a 5. The 4 was, I thought, just too light. So that's my recommendation for rods for the South Fork of the Flathead in July. I brought a box of high visibility, kind of small dries. I certainly could have used them. I think they would have been really effective, but I didn't. I brought this hodgepodge box of dries, combination that I had tied, and commercial flies that I bought. I used mostly Purple Haze, Parachute Adams. This guy right here was killer for July on the cutthroat. Adams, just regular old Adams dries were great, gray Adams. The people were saying the beetles were working well. I didn't actually ever fish a beetle, but here's a beetle that somebody gave me that they said was working great. And then pretty much I only fished chubbies, and chubbies in those small dries crushed it. That was all we needed. And then on the droppers, these are the droppers that I bought. I wish that I would have brought more tag nymphs. I had a tag nymph on the other day and it was just destroying them. But pretty much any tag that we put on, people were fishing stones and they worked real well. You know, I was fishing Prince Nips, tag nymphs, Duracells, it really didn't seem to matter, whatever was on your dropper. Frenchie really produced for me. I had a couple of Frenchies. They just crushed it, so those were all good for us. For streamers, I bought some streamers. The only streamer that I ended up using is this one. This one produced 2 cutthroat for me, and I did not see a single bull trap. This is a Sparkle Belly Slump Buster that one of the guys who actually kind of was a guide gave me. He said that's a really good one. It didn't produce for me, but I have to trust it. I hope that's helpful. I hope that's a breakdown of what you might want to consider bringing if you're heading out into that Bob Marshall wilderness. The same trip that I did, it's a 2-day horseback ride in, horseback mules, and then it's a 5-day float out fishing and then camping along the way. And those are kind of my suggestions if you go with an outfitter that supplies you with a tent and a cot and all that. Oh, one thing I definitely would bring is another mattress, like an air mattress, because the thermarests just aren't enough. And I was in pain. Some people don't mind that kind of sleeping situation, but I could have been more comfortable had I had a little something extra on top of the cot. So I would recommend bringing something like that, and a comfortable pillow. I was sad mine wasn't comfortable. And if I think of anything else, I will add it to the video. But that's what I bring. Hit me up if you have any questions about the trip at all. Just, put something in the comments or whatever, and I'll try to answer all questions as best I can. Forewarned is forearmed when you do a trip like this. It's a pretty rugged adventure. So definitely let me know if you have questions.